Welcome back to some professional StarCraft 2. Let me introduce to you our first grand finalist, the German Protoss player. It is the Wall, D. Mauer. Showtime. Up against his aggressive French counterpart, the best Terran player outside of Korea, though Big Gabe whispering in the distance. It is Clem. His micro unequaled and his macro fully competent, but I think this is going to be one of the most interesting possible clashes of styles. Clem, well known for his aggression, his constant penchant for getting up in your face and then somehow behind it and murdering all your workers. Whereas Showtime, I mean, you don't get nicknamed the Wall because of your tendency for reckless attacks. Walls are not oftentimes known for anything but passive aggression. So I'm very interested to see, as Showtime has always shown us a more clear path for Protoss, and Clem has always shown us the very limits of what is possible with Terran. So if you enjoy, settle in for this ESL SC2 Cup Finals, a best of 5. Like, subscribe. We're going for 1,000 likes per video. Why? Because it's a round number. It makes me feel good on the inside. And if we get 1,000 likes, I'll cast another game of StarCraft, another series of StarCraft 2, probably for tomorrow. And I probably will do it anyways. But it can't hurt. Thank you for watching. I'm glad so many people have been enjoying, even after 13 years. And I plan to always bring you the best RTS games out there. Let's break it down. Showtime already, you could see his mini-map vision expanding. An oracle, multiple oracles on the way. There was a Reaper from Clem that got a total of... 2 probes have gone down. I believe 1 scouting probe and 1 at home. Stargate into 3 gate with 3 Nexi for Showtime. Nice and quick. A Cyclone in the main, but 2 Oracles threaten to overwhelm it. Gambling that there will not be a Widow Mine. Ooh, splits back. Revelation takes the Oracle that is not locked onto and and pushes back the Cyclone. An Armory mine drop on the way, though. And very importantly, this has not been spotted by Showtime's Oracles. He hasn't had that revelation quite yet. A cheeky play, to say the very least. The Triumvirate comes in, though. 3 Oracles, more than enough, but there are Widow Mines on the ramp. Does he notice? I believe he did, so he didn't get baited into them. Realizes now, and will very, very, very importantly see the Armory. That is by far the most important piece of this puzzle. So we'll get 3 kills. Cyclone chasing down in the medevac. Forced back in, which does break the lock, but almost... Oh my god. These guys are so good. Clem juggling the clone in and out of the medevac to keep it alive while still maximizing. He's not done. He's on the chase. I was doing the generic recap, but the recap is not quite over yet. In total, minimal damage. They were both very close to doing a serious amount. If those Oracles die, or the Cyclone and some extra SCVs, that really blunts the opportunities for either player to do damage or defend. But the Oracles will live, the Cyclone does as well, losing 5 SCVs, but I don't think critical damage for the Frenchman here, though. He is down 15 workers now. The one thing that you don't have when you go with Stargate relatively early is a huge amount of production on the ground. He's got 3 gates going up to 4. Finished up a Robo, Twilight and Forge, but there's a lot of stuff. He's investing in his infrastructure, which takes a while to pay off. And when it does, it's great. But right now, a Forge and a Twilight and a Robo today may make units tomorrow or make them better, but as the medevacs, the Marines, and the I assume they're going to be medevacs, otherwise it'd be very... Yeah, okay. Be very weird for Clem to be moving out with this triple threat attack without the medevacs. a pretty solid army supply here. Showtime is very aware of the fact that an armory Widowmine medevac, that means the Widowmines require detection even after they fire. Stasis triggered, and the Marine avoids it through death. The ultimate counter. Widowmine drop heads in. There's only 3 Phoenixes here. Gonna pick up the clones. Not the clones, but the Widow... Oh my... Oh, there was still one. Okay. Well, cannon comes online. They can detect it. Showtime moves into position. Clem sharked around towards the natural. Not quite able to get there, but instead dives into the main with the medevac. Always waiting for an opportunity. Knocking on the door. Will Showtime answer? The Phoenix is picking up what they can, but getting gunned down in turn. 1 medevac down, drawing a lot of the units out of position. But Showtime, how much has he split off here? The Widowmines at the center, in between the natural and the third, are making things difficult. But Showtime still hasn't taken any real economic damage. It's been superficial at best, but more coming in. Widowmine connects with the Colossus. Clem just making it very APM intensive just to deal with all these mines, let alone the rest. Sacrificing units left, right, and literally center. As the Widowmines keep connecting, Showtime has been taxed heavily on his robo, which means he hasn't been able to build observers because he wants Colossi to deal with this army. So Clem is really making great use of these Minecraft plays. Another set of mines. Oh no! They connect with the Immortal. Another shot as well. Finally, an observer comes out. Has it already done 2? Another mine drop into the third. Clem is everywhere. More, another attack into the natural. Dives in. Robobay vulnerable. Extended thermal lance has been denied. Colossi tried to defend. Clem picks up and boosts away. So far, Clem is giving Showtime the runaround. But I do have to put another mine hit. I do have to point out one key thing, which is that Showtime's worker count has barely been touched. He's still at 71. But Clem now has a third. He's got +2/+2 on the way. He already had that armory done, of course. The Widowmines have definitely taken big bites out of the army. But so far, nothing that Showtime is... He's one bad fight away from losing this game. But that is perpetually the situation with Clem on the other side of the map. The army, well, part of the army will match that of Clem. Showtime knows better than to commit all of his forces. Still, is that the same Cyclone from earlier? Clem continues hammer... Boost thinks about the main, but he's actually going to join up to try to collapse on this army. Showtime realizes it and has Colossi on either side here. Some battle groups of units to defend. Scans on both sides. Clem's like, did you have an observer? And honestly, I'm not sure how Showtime realized that, but he moved to the right direction in time. He doesn't actually have vision in this area. Maybe the lack of units in his main gave it away, as that was the obvious play, and I think Clem thought so as well. But his attempt is preemptively deflected. A Colossus out in front, Disruptor on the ground. It is off cooldown, waiting for its opportunity to fire the shot, but sometimes the Disruptor held in your back pocket is even more dangerous than one fired out, because once it goes on cooldown, Clem's just going to be stutter-stepping his way to knock down the Colossi. Clem is a dick. Oh my god. The drop of doom, but an observer spots it. And a Phoenix as well. That is 7 medevacs full of units. 70 supply right there. Disruptor shot, though. Stims away. Finds nothing. Another set of scans. A small charge lock counter. The first sign of aggression that Showtime's been able to put on. He's now got the double Ds of destruction. The Dark Templar on the way. The Dark Shrine. As well as double Disruptor. Charge lots get a handful of SCVs on the other side. Distract Clem for a moment. A Widowmine in the main. He picks up. He's making full and almost overuse of these medevacs in this game. God, so much at the medevacs. Clem picks up and heads to the main. Inspired by Beyond, clearly, as he has been. There were times where we thought of Clem as the new Beyond, but now we have 2 of them, apparently. The younger French version. Vikings hit the deck to help deal with the charge lots, but getting a non-insignificant amount of SCVs in the last minute. 10 SCVs overall. Disruptor shots fired. Loses one. Another one connects with some ghosts. Another shot to the south. Finds a good one as well. The Vikings were able to take out the Colossi. And so far, Showtime is holding strong, dragging in some of his reinforcements that were off to the side here. 3 more Colossi. Showtime always has units in reserve. Are there Widow Mines in the main? Indeed there are. Also near the third. But observers will spot some of them in the main army itself. DT Blink on the way now. Main base, Widow Mines moving closer. The cannon was actually taken out in one of those earlier Doom drops. So no detection for the mines. Well, the fact that Showtime is still not only alive, but in a relatively stable position is a testament to how much he earned his name. Another shot. Oh, EMP! Barely. But able to target down. A very thin timing there, but gets the disruptor. The mines are slowly encroaching on either side. Thankfully, the probes are able to transfer. Showtime up to 5 bases now, whereas Clem is taking his 5th up on the left side, the 9 o'clock position. Widow Mines on the units warping in. +3 on the way for Showtime, being chrono boosted. His weapon upgrade about to complete. DT in the back line. Says 2 can play a cloaked units. Unfortunately, scan does exist. And takes out the DT. 9 SCVs with it. 3-3 for Clem is about halfway done as well. Both sides unable to find that critical damage. And now finally Showtime is able to move across the map and maybe get something done. The Vikings are zoning out the Colossi. +3 weapons. Whoa, Disruptor shot the fadeaway. He thought he got the Colossus, but instead he got a Purification Nova directly to the face. Clem loses a chunk of units and the opportunity to keep attacking. The DT still finding damage, dragging Clem back to the other side of the map. Gravitic Drive is on the way as well for Warp Prism speed. Showtime keeps moving around, becoming an even more epic game here. In game 1 of 5, we got quite a series in store, if this is any sort of indicator. Oh, even using the medevacs for a quick retreat over the top there so the Blink Stalkers can't easily follow. Liberators have joined the field. Vikings doing a lot of damage to those Colossi in a single volley. +1 ship weapons is done. 4 Liberators at a time. Viking Micro on point. Gets 1 Colossus. The other 2 are badly bruised. Another Disruptor. Concussive shells. Hold it down. And the rest knock it out. Another shot. Oh my god, a point-blank Disruptor shot to clear the mines. Warp Prism a bit optimistic. EMPs coat the field. Liberator siege up. Fadeaway shots for the Disruptors. Cover his retreat. But Clem is closing in from all sides. Showtime made the mistake of committing everything into one fight. The vast majority of his units here, and now he's in trouble. A single force field thrown out. Easily passed by Clem. The Widow Mines catch him on the retreat. I don't know how long they've been here. That was the first kill for that one. Gonna have to cancel this, and this does open up that key location. You know what it is. DT on the other side, though. Clem's third. Actually forced the lift of 2 orbitals, kind of weirdly. I'm not entirely sure why he decided to lift it, but it's just creating an awkward scenario. I don't know if he actually has any detection. The DTs are still going to work. Clem apparently is mildly human. He's been accused of it before. He can only micro 3 places at once. Oh my, we're in the Clem action cam right now, by the way. Just let's take a moment. I accidentally switched to the Clem cam for more than a second, but this is what we're dealing with. All right, army up the center. He's still got those Widow Mines with vision. Picks up. After he scans the observer and heads to the main. He knows he still has those mines to work with. Splits off the units. Sends 1 drop away. Oh my god, I did... Oh, he saw the observer. How? Just casually EMPs to kill the observer. There's a fusion core on the way, though certainly for advanced ballistics. Setting up the Liberators. Let's go to the Showtime queue. All right. Waiting for his opportunity. Fires off exploratory volley. Blinks away from his own disruptor shots. Warping in. Making sure he has plenty of units. Moving the probes into the corner. Thinking about a recall here. He was looking for a nexus he could recall from that had the energy, because he's been using his chrono boost so diligently. Showtime on top of it. Yeah, not the ideal one he would have chosen, but he does escape. What an attention to detail there. A lot of players just lose those probes, or recall so late it doesn't even matter. But Showtime on top of it. But now he's going to want to defend his base. As the Liberators have sieged up, Advanced Ballistics isn't done, but still a disgusting position to deal with. And without a Stargate, or at least without a Fleet Beacon, and Tempest, it's going to be increasingly difficult to deal with the larger and larger amounts of Liberators. Cannons are creating a bit of a choke point for the units to try to come through. Big attack on the left side, cleared out one of the planetary fortresses. But Showtime dealing with this Terran army is incredibly difficult. He doesn't have the means on the ground here. The disruptor shots have to land. The stalkers have to pick away. Meanwhile, if he can drag this into something of a base trade, maybe that can work out. Disruptor shot zone away outside of the liberation zones. Blink Stalkers come into the third. They're 2 orbitals vulnerable. As the orbital count dips, the DTs gain more and more value. Another base. Showtime looking for long distance mining. Going to be able to pick off some of these Liberators here. Anything he can do to deal with it is going to be key. Clem, though, building rather. I think we just saw 6 SCVs in production at a time. So any sort of SCV losses will easily be replaced by the sheer amount of orbitals on the map. But the incomes are nearly even, as they both base traded in every sense of the word. Both losing at least 1 or 2 bases there, but hold on to the rest. Showtime looking to tilt in his favor here. Goes for the base to the 6 o'clock. Clem, nowhere in sight. Lets it go, but he's got a small force heading north to what I guess has become Showtime's 4th base. There's just not that many units back here. EMP's the Nexus. In fact, Clem might not have even noticed the recall was used, but if he EMPs the Nexus, he guarantees there's no escape. Another base down. Showtime is limited to 3. We don't mind finding another connection. 5 kills there. Finally, the Disruptor will clean it up. The probes are on the run. There's almost nowhere to mine from. There's still the mines in the main. Continue racking up the kills. Three observers at a time for Showtime. Clem is re-establishing his bases, dropping the mules. +3 ship weapons on the way. I don't know if any of the observers are rallied. Oh no. He's gonna go for the high ground over here. Clem finally realizing these mines have been paying off. Oh my. Another shot. 9 probes. Observers redirected. Finally will be dealt with. Is it too little too late? The choke point here. Might want to consider lifting that orbital. Showtime working with what he has. He has a scalpel when he needs a sledgehammer right now. The Liberators. He fires a shot everywhere, but Clem is overwhelming the Marauder count, the Liberator count. A bunch of fadeaway shots from Showtime, who has 9 Disruptors, 17 Stalkers, a Colossus, a Zealot, and a Dream. The Liberator count is just too damn high, and Clem is approaching checkmate right now. Showtime doesn't really have the economy. He hasn't been able to do enough to limit Clem's economy. The Marauder count, yes, the Disruptors might be able to take chunks out of it, but the Liberators... He has 10 Liberators, going on 14. They have +2 ship weapons, which means they 2-shot Stalkers, 1 shot if there's an EMP, from an obscene range. So it is all but Showtime fighting it. If Clem makes a big mistake, he either flies his Liberators over the Stalkers or eats several Disruptor hits. Maybe Showtime can claw back into it. But it's not looking good for Dimawa. The wall is cracking, and it's about to crumple. Crumple? Crumble? Crumple, I guess, is technically accurate, but not nearly as visceral as crumble. Three command centers on the way. Yeah, Yeah, Clem has more than enough money, whereas Showtime can't get any. Disruptors chasing down some of the units. Few DTs working their way by. SCV, papers, please. I got your papers right here. Unfortunately, the Liberator plus the turret is going to be too much. There are 13 Liberators on the field right now. Recall's out with many of the units. The Liberator is cleared up. But unfortunately now... Woo, that was too much. I gotta give credit for Showtime's tenacity, but overall, it is clear the trajectory of this game. Showtime with an incredible fight of it, but Clem will be taking game number 1. All right, we gotta. Okay, that's it. I was wondering what would be the moment, and there was no defining moment, just everything falling apart. Clem takes it. And off to an early lead. His constant and relentless aggression. Absolute, it's overwhelming. I really thought that those drops may just end it. The constant hammering on the main, the Widow Mines and their continued efficiency, an explosive thorn that keeps on giving. Showtime clearly able to keep up, but is he going to be able to overtake? Game 2, Dragon Scales. Clem, even everybody getting... I hesitate to say it, but recently we've seen the kids' table grow up some. MaxPax and Clem and their paternal counterparts, HeroMarine and Showtime. It really feels like Clem and MaxPax have calmed down a little bit and have really fleshed out the entire game, which makes them, combined with their incredible micro, honestly, at this point, just powerhouses. Showtime and I'm just adding HeroMarine in as the example of the older player who has always been very macro-oriented. Not quite as decisive on things like the Doom drops. Showtime definitely not like a proxy adept Oracle micro player, but instead focusing on getting that solid 3 bases, great scouting, and it kept him alive. But honestly, I've watched a lot of games. I feel like I might not watch more StarCraft 2 than anyone else, but it's a very small list. And I'm not quite sure. I think a lot of Protoss have been trying Sky Toss in the late game, like adding in 10 carriers or so, like 6 to 10 carriers. As the ultimate late game unit. You don't want to rely entirely on carriers because Widow Mines and Vikings and EMP, which usually do quite a number, but as something to force that level of anti-air, because otherwise the Marauders, as well as the Ghosts on the ground, make things very difficult. But of course, a couple disruptor hits can and will change the game many times. It's just, I wonder if Showtime is in a bit of a better position economically. Would he have opted for that late game Sky Toss style? Or would he have tried to rely more on the DT counterattacks, or just slamming the door down with disruptors? We'll probably get the opportunity to find out. I'm foreshadowing here. So that way, if it happens, I look smart, and if it doesn't happen, no one remembers. More pro tips on how to look smart on the internet, if you like and subscribe. And come to my timeshare talk, my TEDx talk, where I talk about whatever I want, really. But that's what I have a whole channel for, so... 1-1-1 from Clem. Gonna opt for the more conventional mine drops this time around. Showtime, on the other hand, sticking with his a very similar build. We have Oracle. Is he going to hold on to the second Oracle? Last game, he waited for 2 in order to try to maximize damage, but of course that has its own risks with a lack of early scouting. Oracle heads across the map. Showtime gets double gas at the natural, by the way, before opting for a third base, which indicates, I think, a very quick robo behind this into Colossi. So this is one of the things, I haven't done it as much lately, but I think in order to learn, you'd essentially pause the game and try to figure out, what would you do in this scenario? Or if you were a good player, which I like to pretend to be, what would you do? And I think that's one of the best ways to learn, essentially putting yourself in their shoes, or, well, I doubt either of these players are wearing shoes. I mean, this is why sometimes players will come out on stage and they'll have to put their shoes on. Because, I mean, you're playing however many hours a day at home. Do you play with your shoes? I love to imagine. Clem's just in some steel-toed work boots right now. Showtime, I imagine, has some nice business shoes. And you can tell, I don't know what you call business shoes, but business shoes. Or some very functional running shoes. Maybe I assume he probably works out exactly 47 minutes a day or whatever number he's come out with. Either way, my point is, put yourself in their shoes. Or equivalent. And try to figure out what you would do or why you would do whatever part of the build. And in this case, the double gas before third, as well as the Phoenixes, indicate that he wants more tech. And what tech could that be? The vast majority of the time, it's going to be Colossi. Because that is the only unit that can reliably deal with a large amount of bio in the early game. Especially when you're going with Phoenixes. The Phoenixes cover the air, and the Colossi cover the ground. The reason it's unlikely to be disruptors is disruptors are, pun somewhat intended, hit and miss. Disruptors are not reliable. They are expensive, they can literally backfire, and they are quite micro-intensive. Whereas Colossi, while they might not have that one-shot potential, they can be the backbone of your army. The one that you build a much more stable economy off of. Phoenix is coming in, loses 1, gets several Marines, so limiting things there. The Observer, I think intentionally not in surveillance mode, the siege up mode, because it is much more visible. And we saw how good Clem is at spotting observers, so whatever you can do to make it more difficult. Mine drop coming in. There is an armory here. Oh no, Showtime, no, no. 7 probes. And that alone. He chrono boosts out the rest of a Colossi. He can't really wait here. He's gonna try to save. Is he gonna try to save it? No. No, the medevac is in trouble here. He can't let that fire again. Alright, deals with it. Clem not quite in position to take advantage. But the Widow Mines are clearly making life difficult here. Getting any... He pre-revelates. Which is... Almost loses the Oracle, but gets 2 mines. Unfortunately, just slightly out of position here. Cleans up the Widow Mines. There's a drop in the main, though. Oh, no. Clem's so good at this. He gets you looking one way, and then he absolutely shivs you the other. Comes in 11 probes down. Showtime with impeccable macro and 3 bases, very importantly. Maintains a probe lead. But how much has he had to spend? He's lost 19 probes. I guess Clem's army. Widow Mines aren't free, but Widow Mines also don't mine minerals. Maybe next patch. If the Terrans continue to get their way. But, I mean, they have mine in the name. Mining minerals. Come on, just lore accurate. Well, so far, Clem's still able to keep up the aggression, though the important difference here, and I think Showtime has pinpointed the major weakness. He can afford to lose probes as long as he can consolidate his army in one spot at one time. The Protoss army really wants to be together in a more deathball-ish fashion. And if you have to split it up to deal with things like medevacs, that's when it gets really dicey. That's when it really starts to come apart. So with the focus on the Phoenixes, even though he's let some of the mine drops through, what he has successfully done is zone out the medevacs. And by zoning out the medevacs, he's forced Clem into a more conventional set of ground attacks, which Showtime is much more ready to deal with. The Phoenix is really paying off. They are some of the most efficient units in the game. Ronnie could go on all day about it, but he's done a great job of keeping them alive as well. I hope I didn't curse him there, but extended thermal lance is done, and Showtime has absorbed all of the damage here. He's patched up the cracks in the wall, and is now adding on a lot of production. He's really tempered his expansion rate. Ooh, the combination of EMP, Vikings, and Ghosts, though, take a big bite out of that Phoenix count. 3 more down. Ghost Viking still a competent counter to most things Protoss. Ooh. Clem taking down the rock towers, which doesn't outright block this path, but interestingly creates a more difficult choke point, which rarely do we see players do. So Clem, the geography master here. Or at least apprentice. At least understanding what it does and that it exists. Rarely do we see anyone actually use it. Well. Here comes Clem. Wow, Showtime. I looked at the upgrades. I'm like, is that bugged? No. Clem has 2-1. Showtime is just about to finish +1 ground weapons. Which, I guess when you're going for this many Phoenixes, makes sense. Most of the army is coming back to deal with 4 Adepts. This is actually a huge win. He kills 9 SCVs, and he drags the army much of the way back. Showtime buys himself a whole lot of space there. A scan forward will spot exactly nothing. Another base is being denied, but Showtime has put together quite an army. What is the unit count? He's got 9 Phoenixes and 4 Colossi. There are 11 Vikings, and building 3 at a time is Clem. I believe an observer just got EMP'd there. Some cannons, a shield battery coming together on the left side as Showtime struggles for his 4th base. Clem landing his own to the north. Both players near 200 supply. We haven't had a decisive engagement, though a lot of dancing around. Big zealot count. Clem's coming all the way back yet again. Does he have so little in the reinforcement? Clem's coming all the way back home for this, which is crazy to me, as, one, I don't know if he needs that much in order to deal with it. 26 SCVs? He's trading with the Vikings, realizing the Viking count is too damn high. Clem loses so much, and he's not done. There's still a zealot. 29 SCVs, and Clem did no counter damage. I can't think of that as anything but a mistake, as he does not need the whole army to come back for half a dozen, maybe 10 zealots and a bunch of Phoenixes. But Clem drags his whole army back home and gives Showtime even more time to work towards his upgrades and build up his unit composition. Though, of course, the Phoenix count has dwindled to 2, so really nothing to throw in front of those Colossi. As Clem is sniping them off on their way across the bridges here, the Stalkers will blink in, but oh my god, they do so much damage. The Colossi dead before they can even really participate in the battle. Another charge lock counter, though. Clem, so far, he's not going to be deterred this time. There's 7 Raptors on the field. That is a dangerous number. You just got to be very careful not to hang them out to dry here. In this scenario, we've seen so many Protoss lose track of their disruptors for just a couple seconds, and those couple seconds are enough to EMP and pounce. Oh, all right, so the Colossi, the Vikings getting a little ambitious, but will take out every single Colossus. The Disruptor's still a dangerous option, though. And remember, the Phoenixes were removed, which reopens the opportunity for drops. Clem working along that angle. He's got a double drop lined up, though the Stalkers were in position to intercept. More observers. How many observers taken out? Only 2. Feels more important when they are, though. Nexus in the center. Cancelled, or actually killed. Clem is nearly maxed here. He's got +3, +2 upgrades. Showtime, +1 armor, +2 weapons. Working on 3-2, but a long way off right now. So he's mostly reliant on landing those disruptor hits. He's got a lot of charge lots as well alongside the Raptors, which is a dangerous combination. Ooh! Oh! I'm sorry. Jimmy, move the camera away for a moment there. I need to see that hit again. Instant replay. Brought to you by Jimmy's incompetence. Okay, solid. It wasn't that great, but it was good enough. Fires another volley to zone out. Observer taken out. The EMPs, not even bothering with scan when you have energy on the Ghost. More EMPs on the units as they come across. The Disruptor's dangerous, but easily avoided with a bit of judicious stims. Alright, this has been a bit of an awkward game thus far, as Clem unable to find a ton of damage, getting continually dragged back by charge lots, but Showtime can't quite close it out. That's where we are now. Fusion core on the way as we trudge our way up the tech tree. Ghosts and Marauders. And a few Marines and Medevacs sprinkled in, making a dangerous combination. 2 disruptor shots over 2. Widowmine softens up some Raptors. The rest of them heading all the way over to the right side, which means Clem has full opportunity to dive in. EMP is the Nexus, no recall. A small warping of DTs, but the Nexus will already be gone. Showtime is the one zoning out Clem's army as he dives for the main. Things getting a lot more dramatic, a lot more quickly now. Another fadeaway shot. The chunks landing there after the Disruptors obliterate a bunch of the bio. But the DTs have cleaned up most of the medevac counterattack. Are there enough Liberators? The choke point at the top of the ramp, but blinks up. There's nothing behind it. Disruptor shots. Still continually zoning Clem out. He's on top of the production. This is the best way to actually eliminate a Terran, is to prevent them from building any more of those incredibly cost-effective units. A force field on the ramp. Goes for the orbital. He's gonna try to snipe the orbitals in order to allow DTs to maximize their damage. Clem is in flight. He's finally come back to defend. But what will there be left? 5 barracks and 2 starports on the way. It's not like Showtime has an incredible economy, but he does have bases, and he does still have production. Showtime has stiff-armed his way into Clem's main base now. And, well, there's not going to be much of a base any longer. He's losing the supply depots. Disruptors are the most dangerous force field. Another group of units heading to the top right, but Clem's indecision. We almost certainly will see a recall unless Showtime decides to just bust his way out. He's still got a ton of army supply. I'm not even gonna say trapped in the main. because he could break out pretty much either side. The planetary fortress will get sliced to pieces. Showtime blunks down. Disruptor shots lead the charge. Clem is forced out of his natural now. Still supply blocked, as he can't seem to find anywhere to put depots. Showtime at 183 supply. He's finished 3-2. Clem still has the 3-3 advantage. A single DT blinks down. If only disruptors could blink. More EMPs. I think he EMP'd his own orbital a bit there. Gotta be a bit careful about that. Somehow Clem is still in the game. He still has a dangerous group of units. 10 ghosts, 10 medevacs, 9 medevacs, 10 marauders. But at this point, the EMPs are not going to counteract the continued trickle of DTs. Well, with perfect micro and the whoa, that Clem cannot afford a single hit like that. And he just took one. How many orbitals are left? Only 2. He gets an observer for his trouble. Still, Showtime has shown a reluctance to recall these units. Would rather have them as a threat here. Though, may very well do so now. The fact that Clem is still in the game, this does feel a little like Showtime in Game 1. Where it's like, well, he's not dead. There's a long way from not losing to winning, though. And this is almost as far as it gets. As Showtime yeah, GGG. Well. Game 2. A solid lockdown from Showtime, exploiting Clem's indecision. You cannot hesitate against that sort of army. Any moment you spend going back and forth is another moment where the disruptors and DTs can catch you out of position. It's like Showtime in Game 1, where he never really decided how much he wanted to commit to the attack, and eventually Clem took advantage of that to undercut his economy. So evenly matched, to say the very least, these two. But so far, I think Clem's still looking the more dangerous of the pair. All right, well, an exhausting series, and we're just getting started. Down to a best of 3. Game 3 of the ESL EU Cup Finals. Put your likes and subscribes together for Babylon. We jump in, all tied up. Engineering bay block. You cheeky devil. I knew these two would probably have a bit of a more drawn-out series. I didn't expect back-to-back 20-ish minute games. Oh god, we could be here a while. Don't spoil yourself. You don't know, maybe Jimmy forgot to include the I have thought about that, though. I don't like how usually you can tell. I do my very best not to spoil myself, besides knowing who's playing, really, obviously. Which does result in those awkward scenarios of not having, like, the last or some of the games of a series. But I think maybe we intentionally do that. Like, once a week, I just include another game from, I don't know, a completely different series. Or at least with one of the players from a different series. I'll think about doing that, because there are some games. Of course, that's not incredible for the YouTube algorithm. I will, unfortunately, many of the practices from the inevitable sensationalist clickbait to the begging for likes and subscribes to the skipping a few minutes of the first game are all designed to make it so the algorithm thinks you like watching my videos, and it works, unfortunately. The biggest increase in both YouTube showing my videos to people and them continuing to watch them has been cutting off those first few minutes of the first game, kind of skipping to the action. I try not to do that with the follow-up games for the most part, but let's be honest, sometimes, and this is why the change in Legacy of the Void with 12 workers instead of 6 was great for people like me, because 90% of games were just another minute and a half of building workers and supply depots. So, now, this has been a very curious game. Despite my meta commentary, there's been quite a meta commentary here because Showtime is temple walling the top of his ramp after the NG Bay block. He's been forced into the third base. So actually the most curious opener so far. Showtime is expecting Hellions, which is a common choice after forcing someone into the third, because your main vulnerability. Hero could learn a thing or two from Showtime. Look at this diligence. There's not even Hellions, but Showtime is making sure of it.
Research complete.
So, Clem on the other side is going for the triple threat. Just straight up. Stim, combat shield, and +1 infantry weapons. Well, oracles. Despite everything, Showtime has managed to drag this back to essentially the same build. He's ended up with the oracles into Robo. And in fact, he's not even rushing to get his natural, but instead making sure he gets that tech up. I mean, it's just scientifical at this point. In game 2, he had a lot more success, right? He had a lot more success with going for the heavy tech, with staying on 2 base a bit longer, and having a stronger army composition. So even though the circumstances are somewhat different, the general theme is the same, as he has 2 bases, teching up into Rubble Bay, and looking for Colossi. The third Nexus only now in a more leisurely fashion on the way at around 5.5 minutes. Oh, he has to see that stasis. Yeah, there's no way he doesn't. Oh wait, he would have split a Marine off though. He shoots his own. You ever force fielded so perfectly it was actually too perfect? So the stasis actually saves the Marines from the force fields. A lot of Protoss abilities have a significant lack of synergy, as we see here. Like disruptors and any other unit existing. The stasis actually keeps keeps everything from any sort of damage. He eventually does clear out some of them, but I have been loving the increased stasis. Oh my god, saying that word a lot of times in a row is a struggle. I've been liking the increased stasis usage by the European Protosses, Showtime, Skillless, and of course Max Packs. It is quite hard to see, much like Widow Mines. It doesn't have quite the impact, but you can essentially design your attacks around it, and it's quite reliable. At the very least, they have to spend some time getting rid of it, or trying to negate it. Which I think with an Oracle, that's what makes the Oracle opener so good. Even when the Marines are able to snipe them off, it's just the utility that they offer between Revelation, the damage, and of course Stasis. Double Forge on the way behind this, but Clem coming across the map, he hasn't been able to really use that efficient bio armor. Not in a way he'd like, I think. Double Twilight Council on the way for Showtime, so clearly, I choose to believe he finishes both and then gets Charge and Blink at the same time. I doubt it. I'm gonna go to the Showtime cam because it's sometimes hilarious to watch this. It's not it's not that expensive, all right, 150, 100, but it is almost certainly a mistake. All right. Starts Charge. Shades the Adepts in. Please let me see Blink in the production tab as well. He's really been finding these timings. It's just enough units that Clem is now coming back back across the map with the majority of his army to try to get them. And he will successfully hunt down and kill the Adepts. He's doing it! Oh! What? Alright, putting Mag's Picks, the Twilight Toss to shame here. With the totally intention. You know? I say it somewhat. I don't think it was intentional, but it does make sense. You do need both those upgrades as soon as possible. And while Showtime has a lot of money, getting your infrastructure up in a timely manner, if you don't have the blink, you can't easily chase down medevacs, micro out of mines, get in front of Colossi, and without charge, obviously, those zealots are just kind of sad. It's one of the largest differences, even more than like slow, okay, maybe not slow versus non-speedlings, but the charge upgrade is such a huge deal. Doesn't even do damage on impact, but just the ability to close the distance instead of getting kited into oblivion. The double Twilight upgrades. What a pioneer. Showtime here. Well, now he's got everything online. Still has that Oracle with the army for Revelation. Clem is in a dangerous position, setting up his mines. I will say, he is one of the most infuriating Widowmine users. Okay, so the stasis protects the Terran units, while the Colossus and the rest of the army waltzes into a concave of mines. So what happens when they come out? Lines up the shot! Oh! Finally! Finally! Well, that is... I can't explain how hard that is to do. Even if you know the timing, it's so easy to screw that up. Everybody knows when they're coming out of stasis. Oh, but alley-oops, the disruptors, the slam dunk, 10 out of 10. Finally, it is so hard to do, because if they fire a split second too early, it just does nothing. And a split second too late, and they've probably already run away. God, he spent 6 hours a day in his parents' backyard practicing that one. And finally it comes out. Alright, now, of course, that's not going to change the game significantly, but it does keep the Nexus alive to the north. And very important to keep Showtime's economy intact with it. The minefield just continually spread between everything. Colossi, in a pretty dangerous position. Any sort of protected airspace, like over those cliffs, does, of course, give Vikings an opportunity to snipe off Colossi. Technically, Phoenixes could match them, but as the numbers grow, in small numbers, Phoenixes trade very well. But as the numbers grow, the sheer alpha damage, the ability for a single volley to do devastating damage, it far favors the Vikings, which do a lot more damage in that singular volley. Knocking down the Colossus. Disruptors. Continuing. On the other side. Once again, we get into this well-developed late game here. More command centers on the way. Fusion core for advanced ballistics. 3 for 3 on the fusion core for advanced ballistics in this series. That should really tell you how it's been going. Meanwhile, EMP chasing down a Colossus. Give Showtime a bit of time to move into position. He's bringing his entire army here. You know better than that, Showtime. You know so much better than that. You know far better than that. He's got all his eggs in one particular basket. Oh. This is the most clear counter here. But Showtime gets a little lazy when it comes to splitting his army. And it may cost him a bunch of his economy. And if he doesn't stop this soon, critical damage that can lead to the game. Suddenly Clem sharking in from the north. He doesn't want to just run up into the natural where he can get pincered, but instead, oh my god, Clem! Oh. The split second. I bet Showtime. Just shaking his head. Oh, what an incredible split. You see, when he gets the... That's what happens. If you give Clem even a quarter second to micro... well, obviously that was not a quarter second. Absolute slam of a disruptor hit on the left flank. The duality of Ruptors. Sometimes they hit absolutely nothing, and sometimes they hit everything. A volatile unit. But that hit and shutdown takes what looked like a winning position for Clem and turns it into a much more tenuous one. Showtime did lose his Nexus. He's at 72 probes. He's got +3, +2. He actually has +3 armor instead of weapons. He's got +3 weapons and +1 shields on the way. Meanwhile, Clem has 10 Liberators and is building 5 more. Well, 15 Liberators is an obscene. He's building 6 Liberators at a time. Viva la liberty. That is an obscene number. That is a disgusting... No, you can't fight that. The overlapping Venn diagram of superior firepower and freedom. No, you need a Stargate. He does have a Stargate. You need to storm. You need something. Stalkers, conventional units are not going to deal with this. That is a stupid amount of Liberators. Now, none of them were protecting the planetary fortress to the north. If he can catch them unsieged, but there's so many. Oh my god! 14! I don't know if I've ever seen over 20 in a real game, ever since they got nerfed to not also counter air entirely. But, like, he could set up a Liberator siege line across most of the map. A single DT here. Split off to deal with the ghost. Somehow Showtime is continuing to zone this out, even though the Liberator count is now higher than the Stalker count. He blanks into the prism, which picks it up from afar. Disruptor's looking for a shot. Stalker's trying to isolate what they can. There are just so many Liberators. They have +2 ship weapons. The Liberation zones are coating the entire field. Showtime has not started a fleet beacon. He's not started Storm. He doesn't have a Templar Archives. That, like, if he ever lets Clem come across the map, I guess he's whittled it down to 11 Liberators. He continues to warp in Stalkers, but that is just too many. I'm surprised Clem hasn't found that position where it's almost untouchable and can kill your probes. Showtime going for a desperate counter. DT's working on the base to the north. There's the Warp Prism, who taking a lot of hits. High-sec auto-tracking and building armor are done. Trying to warp in. The Stalkers find a nice position here where the Liberators are relatively unprotected. Can Showtime actually do this? The DT going to work on the planetary. The single SCV is not out-repairing it. The Stalkers are fighting. The planetary! The planet escapes! The DT blanks out. Honestly, that one DT may have saved the game. It's still a absolutely oppressive amount of Liberators. All right. Right now, those Liberators coming across the map. Vikings on the deck as they've been replaced in the air. There is no direct counter to this much Liberation. The Stalkers tried to base trade, but once again, it seems like we get to this position in every game where we've gone back and forth, we've jostled and jockeyed for position. The Disruptors will land. The DTs did their damage. But at the end of the day, Clem's army is not to be beaten. There is no anti-air left. The Liberators will stabilize at home. Clem will be able to undercut the rest of Showtime's economy. And with it, I think game 3, another exhausting game. He comes back with the Stalkers, fires a Ruptor shot, targets the Ruptor. The other Ruptor blasts into the Stalkers, punctuating the ending of game 3. GG. Okay, Showtime. You can't. You need something. You need a more direct option. At some point, you're on the timer. Showtime putting a significant effort towards whittling down the economy and the Liberator count, but Clem was able to lock down his bases and march across the map with air superiority. And he comes to a 2-1 lead. But we're not done. We play a best of 5 here in the grand finals of the ESL Cup. And that means Clem is on match point, but we're not done yet. Let me introduce. Once again, it's been quite a process so far. Oh. Okay. All right. I thought he was going to send a second probe out, but Clem versus Showtime. Oh. Probe being annoying. It does feel so far. They've played a version of the same game out 3 times. It takes quite a while to play out. The major difference in game 2 for Showtime was how much he was able to get Clem to turn around, I feel. Oh no. It begins. How much he was able to get Clem to go back to his side of the map and kill SCVs, which is something he hasn't really been able to repeat to a dramatic effect. Alright, so Showtime knows about this. Here comes the Reaper, chrono boosting out a Stalker. Now, this is the Clem we know. Do you even try to target the SCV? You know he's gonna dodge. He's gonna dodge the projectile. There is no, essentially, hit scan unit for Protoss besides the Zealot. I guess technically the Sentry. Like... Okay. It's just like Showtime. He's not even trying for the SCV. He's just going... He's just going for the bunker, working his way through it. 2 Stalkers do out DPS the repair. Now, if he loses a Stalker, I'm continually popping out of the bunker for it. Oh, God! It's gonna be so... Okay. Alright. Alright. With now the shield battery. Oh, my God. Okay, the SCV trying to get out. He may actually... Oh, come on. Oh, my God. The SCV may die. And the Reaper... Okay. He salvaged the bunker and he got out with the Reaper. Showtime has had enough. He's had enough. Proxy Dark Shrine, though almost accidentally scouted here. Wow. Showtime is sick of it. He's also getting Blink back at home, just making it look good. He does actually want Blink, it seems. But the cheesiest thing... Well, I was about to say the cheesiest thing a cheeser can do is play macro, but this is just like a normal cheese. This is... I'm just so used to these crazy macro builds. No, it's just Proxy Dark Shrine. It's about as cheesy as it gets. At least for Showtime. It's not one base, but he successfully masked it. There is an engineering bay on the way, though I would be incredibly surprised. Another key point that I think Showtime may have realized well before me. Clem has not built any Ravens. The normal staple Oh my god! Showtime wins without killing a single unit. Clem saw the shimmer. The game ends. Perfect game by Showtime. Wow. Then we're all tied up. The most classical Protoss fashion. The DT rush. Oh my god. Clem just doesn't even bother. He sees the shimmer and taps out. Wow. That's a bucket of ice water in this jacuzzi of a series. All right, well, match point. Jimmy, game 5. All right. Okay. Getting whiplash from that game. I'm sure Clem did as well. Clem, like, being reminded that this is indeed a tournament and not him in Showtime playing practice games. As that was like a ladder build right there. It might not happen every game, but like every 5th game. Something like it. Whether it's a proxy, Stargate, DT rush, charge all in. Pulling out the old bag of Protoss tricks. I don't blame Showtime one bit. Clem has been playing greedy. This is a reason why you build the Raven. And the Raven is vulnerable to Stargate, because, of course, Phoenixes can potentially pick it off. But Clem has essentially skipped the Raven and not been punished for it at all. Usually the Raven is more of a defensive than an offensive tool. But Clem has really been liking those mine drops, rushing out bio. So Showtime, once again, splashing some cold water on him. Like, yeah, you gotta remember. And Protoss units exist. Those DTs aren't limited to blinking on play. Clem says 2 can play at that game. It's going to be a proxy Hellion drop. The reason you build the starport so close is that the Hellions come out slightly quicker than a medevac does, or can. So, by the time the Hellions get across the map, the medevac should be finishing and allow you to maximize the speed at which you get into their base. At this point, Showtime will know what it is, or at least have a good idea. But will he be prepared to defend it? He's looking. He's looking. Ah! Well, that's awkward. Just patrolling. Well, there's no garrisoning that medevac inside of the starport here. So how is Clem going to handle this? He lifts the starport. Oh my god, he just doesn't care. He says you can't kill me in time. Dives into the main. He's actually going to get all 4 Hellions out. It doesn't matter. You can see it, but can you stop it? Yes. Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, that did. I really thought Clem was going to come in and kill like 12 probes. No. Showtime shut that down like a blue screen computer right there. Oh, fatal error in game 5. Well, that's certainly not an auspicious start for the Frenchman. Showtime slapping down that medevac and the Hellions inside. Barely any. I lost one probe. It could not be a. I don't think that's I am really. Showtime probably didn't expect to get into the main like that, though. I think he could have done a ton of damage if he had committed to it. But Showtime, in his more default manner, gets a lead and expands. He realizes he's going to have significant. Well, he's going to have the advantage in map control. He has the Phoenixes. The starport can't build anything while it's flying. Maybe next patch. So, between the Phoenixes and any amount of ground units, Showtime is going to be unchallenged as he gets his third. We're going to see charge, yeah. +1 armor and charge. On the way. Phoenix is just continually scouting. We'll spot the reactored factory, which at this point indicates very likely Whittle mines as opposed to... oh, if he can get the mines. Get the mines! Any amount... Like, if he gets the mines for minimal losses, loses one Phoenix. Probably not worth it, but... Clem is so desperate to get damage done. He's played a solid series thus far, but Showtime is playing the full series. He got his cheese. He literally won without the DTs attacking. That is highly amusing. It also shows how good Clem is, that he knows the situation without even seeing it. He saw it well enough, I guess. The medevac slips out just before a Phoenix is on patrol. Wow, look at all those mountains over there. A third command center is on the way. Clem not willing to stop here. We'll continue building up. Medevac looking for its opportunity. Now, one Whittle mine has changed many a series in the past. Will this be one? There's no robo. It's about to finish, but the mine, 4 kills. Not devastating, but these ones maybe. 10 kills. Reset the probe count, and there's no detection built in. The medevac is taken out, but I think these mines have successfully dragged Clem back into this game. As in neglecting the robo, Showtime has made it very difficult for him to clear these up. There's going to be another round of shots. Showtime ends up losing 4 more probes, which means Clem is now equal on workers. There's a spylon over here. Well, actually a proxy pylon for warping in, more than likely. But any sort of real advantage that Showtime had has evaporated alongside those probes. And at this point, the army composition that Showtime has built is reliant upon overwhelming your opponent. You get a whole bunch of charge lots, and you run down the Marines and Marauders so much that no amount of micro will save them. But he no longer has the economy to put that many units on the field. It is very much a big question mark as to whether he can overwhelm Clem, who has 6 medevacs, he has Whittle mines, and he has enough bio to make life very difficult for the charge lots here. Third base is well established for Clem. The supplies are dead even. And here we are in game 5. Those Whittle mines work both ways, though. He picks up 4, but he eats a 5th. Still, Clem bullied out of position. The Whittle mines in a single volley. Oh, beautiful force fields. Archons picks up behind the force fields. They've worked both ways here. The charge lots are not going to be enough to grind through the sheer amount of Terran. The rest of the army coming up, he saves a couple, but the scan and the cyclones could potentially lock on. He loses 16 SCVs. Drops out, though. The cyclones lost vision. Force field mildly inconveniences the bio army. Oh, no, the mines. He saw the mines. Okay. So what turned from, it was a remarkably solid fight. Unfortunately, a couple too many mines that the Phoenixes couldn't really deal with it. But charge lots into the main, keeping this prism alive may be the lifeline here for Showtime. Finding a great opportunity to get the damage done. Well, this is still going to be a tough position to break. Ghosts are on the field. The force field, once again, I'm not convinced force field helps Protoss. There is a feedback. It's one of the ghosts. Still one with energy for EMP. Clem, his army supply is nearly double that of Showtime. Who doesn't have another base to fall back to? Even though he's got a lot of workers. A huge economic lead right now. Well, he holds, but those Widow Mines are recharging. Does he realize? He has to realize. He needs to realize. Unfortunately, those mines are the backbone of the army at this point. Showtime trying for a desperate counterattack. Clem realizes he's so far forward. There's no going back. Inappropriate, but there's disruptors. That could be the disruptors coming out at a near perfect timing. Unfortunately, the Widow Mines will catch the War Prism. There could be a recall into the natural. The disruptors hiding in the main. A full-on base trade. Both players will be losing most of their infrastructure. Showtime fires a disruptor. 2 disruptor shots and Clem gets hit. He gets hit. When does the recall happen? A lot of the SCVs escaped slaughter here. A recall into the natural where the mines are already established. Gonna drag out a shot, but there's still half a dozen. And the layout of the natural, there's no way Clem's gonna be caught looking the wrong way now. Disruptor shot to chase the mines. Oh my god, he saves everything, including the landed Viking. There is no more detection. He lost the robotics. Here come, oh, the charge lots from the back, but the EMPs. And there's no anti-air. Oh no. Clem, his presence of mind and his presence of minds are just far too much. He realizes there's literally nothing to stop him from picking up. And somehow we're going into round 2 of the base trade, as Showtime just abandoned his own base and heads for Clem's. But unfortunately, well, the disruptor doesn't find anything to start, but there's enough units left over, and there's no medevacs. Somehow the base trade will actually continue, and there's a reasonable chance. Well, Showtime is running out of options. In this scenario, the Widow Mines are king. Many other scenarios as well, but there's just limited detection. The disruptors are the only real counter left for them. He sees the mines. He's firing shots to deal with them, trying to split. There is enough in the way of charge lots here. Eats 1 mine hit. EMP lands. But the disruptors have not cooled down. And that means Showtime loses the vast majority of his army. He loses all of his bases. He loses this game and he loses the series. 3-2. Clem holds on. Quite an experienced Minecraft player. He's just a bit too quick and a bit too solid. Showtime looking incredibly good, but not good enough to take on the kid. Clem comes out 3-2. An exhaustive series between these two, but finally it's over. Thank you for spending a significant chunk of your day with me. I hope I made it a little bit better. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Good luck, have fun. Stay chill.